The great EPA Administrator, Mr. Lee Zeldin. There's Lee Zeldin, my favorite EPA Administrator in history. Lee Zeldin, though, I want to say, I'm not going to ask you about monetary policy. I'm not going to. But the Supreme Court today made a great pro-Trump decision allowing really lots and lots of federal workers to be riffed. They're now saying that, if you want them out, they should come out. And that's going to be a dagger right into the heart of the deep state throughout Washington, D.C. and the whole federal bureaucracy. Now, you're running the EPA. I dare say the EPA bureaucracy is not exactly big, fertile territory for Donald Trump. But I wanted to talk to you about this. You got your own deep state in there. I know you've made reforms. Will the Supreme Court decision let you make more rifts, Lee Zeldin, and transform the EPA, into something that will really help create enough power for the United States rather than some climate religion?
Yeah, this helps us make the EPA stronger. Once I came in, we were implementing President Trump's executive order to end COVID-era remote work policies. We found that last year on Mondays and Fridays, we averaged about 5 to 8% attendance here at our headquarters in Washington, D.C. The record high was 31%. So it was important to get people back into the building. We then started soliciting feedback from the ranks on ideas on efficiencies. And we found that to right size this agency in each of the program offices, there are all sorts of good ideas that will result in some cases, an office might have less staff, and in other cases, the staff might have a little bit more. Overall, for the agency, I get asked, what's the right number? Well, I don't want one person less or one person more than we need to fulfill our statutory obligations and to help President Trump power the great American comeback. What that ends up meaning, after we right-size these different offices, with the help of now this Supreme Court decision, is that we are going to have thousands of less people working at the EPA. And it's not about going out and just trying to fire good people. We want good people in government. We don't want dead weight. We don't want people who aren't being best utilized. And we don't want to have one more person, the taxpayers having to pay for one more person than we need to accomplish our mission.
You shouldn't be in the head of the Federal Reserve, because this is exactly what has to happen at the Fed. Weed out the dead wood. Now the Supreme Court decision allows these rifts. I mean, this is a tremendous victory for all of you cabinet officers, but especially for President Trump, who, was very keen on this.
Yeah, and the American public voted for it. I mean, that's the most important part of all of this. This isn't like, an issue that no one spoke about during the campaign, and then President Trump gets elected and is like, oh, by the way, we need to clean house in Washington, D.C. and drain the swamp. He was talking about this when he was running for president in 2016. The American public voted for this last November.
Yes, terrific stuff. So now, back to current policy business. You're out there pushing nuclear, I'm saying, or you're making it easier to develop nuclear. We had the Energy Secretary on last night talking a little bit about this. I mean, I've never heard of an EPA. I mean, we had it in the first term for a little while, but it's pretty unusual for the EPA to be pushing nuclear or pushing oil or pushing gas or pushing coal. But what I gather is, if it makes sense and passes muster, you're willing to promote those powers.
Protect the environment and grow the economy. The American public voted for that, too. And it's important for us to help increase baseload power. When President Trump called me up asking me to take this position, he was rattling off like 15 different specific things he wanted us to be working on here at EPA. And it had a lot to do beyond just clean air, land, and water for all Americans, which President Trump talks about. It's unleashing energy dominance, advancing cooperative federalism, permitting reform, making America the AI capital of the world, bringing back and protecting American auto jobs. This is the Trump mandate, and we're going to deliver on it. We need more baseload power. And I come from a state like New York, as you know, Larry, where in a state like that, they won't approve new pipelines. They've banned the safe extraction of natural gas. They won't allow gas hookups on new construction. They set these climate dates, these goals that won't be met. And the only way to even try to meet those dates of those climate goals cause extreme economic pain for people who can least afford it. Well, if you want to say so New York goes or so California goes, so goes the rest of the country, Well, that's going to scare the heck out of the rest of the country, because there's a reason why these two states lead the whole country in out-migration. In many cases, it's bad economic policy, and President Trump wants to make sure that he has us there working with each other, a National Energy Dominance Council, at the right coordination, the right cooperation, and being productive, applying common sense, and fulfilling the Trump mandate that the American public voted for last November.
And I'm just thinking, Lee Zeldin, that inside the EPA and your staff, if you've got a bunch of people there, you know, that don't want to get with the program, if they don't get the right memo and sign off on it, you have the authority to make RIFs of people in policy positions that don't go along. That's what you have to do, because you've got to fix the president's own policy. It's got to be done properly.
Yeah, we inherited all sorts of backlogs, 14,000 pesticides review, hundreds of new chemicals, hundreds of backlog state implementation plans. That list goes on. That's what we inherited. So, for example, our Office of Air and Radiation wanted to create a new state, an Office of State Air Partnerships to advance cooperative federalism to get more state implementation plans over the finish line. That's a great idea. We're happy to implement it. But all sorts of other aspects of the agency, we're not fulfilling core missions, wasting tax dollars, and not getting to our core mission and powering the great American comeback. And here's the thing. This is a message for any employee at the EPA. We want every good employee here being productive. Sometimes you might not have, over the course of a 20, 30, 40-year career in the federal government, your candidate might not win the election. Sometimes they will. At the end of the day, you respect the will of the people. We have a zero-tolerance policy for any employee trying to sabotage, undermine, or undercut the will of the American public. Zero. And if you try to sabotage that agenda, you're gone. End of story. You're all on notice. And by the way, this is a fortunate situation that a very large majority of the employees I've come in contact with, they understand that the American public have spoken. We have a job to do. We're working together to get it done, regardless of whether or not their candidate won last November. And God bless those selfless servants for having that attitude.
All right, very well put. Very well put. EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin. Thanks again, Lee. Appreciate it very much. Take care.